I'm going to walk you through exactly how to structure your own meal plan. The goal is you're going to leave this video, you're going to know exactly how to write your own meal plan. You might just need to follow the one that I'm going to show you. I'm going to walk you through how to find your calories first, your macros, some general frameworks to hit your micros pretty easily without even having to really track it and think about it too much. And I'm also going to show you how to actually put this in practice by giving you an exact example. Sorry, I'm having a brain fart already. We're only 1 minute in, not even. It's July 4th. Happy 4th of July to my Americans, probably most of you out there. This is what I'm doing to celebrate. We're fucking giving you guys some more free value. Bro, by this point, I've given you how to build your own meal plan, how to build your own workout program with multiple different examples, full body, upper, lower. I don't even know what else I've done there. How to stop binge eating, how to stay lean year round. Like, what else can you guys possibly want? We're just going to keep pumping them out. I'm going to keep finding things. Anyways, let's get the fuck into it. Why don't we? Okay, first up, calories. Pretty simple. We're going to go to either a TDEE calculator, or I would probably suggest using AI, to be honest, because you can give it a lot more info. I would give it as much info as you possibly have. If you have any log of your weight, definitely put that in there. If you have logs of your expenditure and your cardio levels and things like this, put everything, give it as much information as possible, your body weight, your what you typically eat in a day, whatever the fuck it asks you for, and whatever you think is going to help it give you a number, an estimation, do that. Then, regardless of how you do that, this is just going to be an estimation. Obviously, it's not going to be an exact, your true maintenance, and you never really will have your true maintenance because it's going to fluctuate every single day. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, but this will give you an estimation. Then to find a closer representation of what your true maintenance actually is, we're going to experiment. We're going to, if we suspect that the number they gave us is a pretty good estimate, I would typically recommend you underestimate a little bit. So let's say it gives you 3,000 calories, to keep it simple, as your estimated maintenance. So what I want you to do from there, for a week, I want you to eat, let's say 2,900, just to underestimate, play it safe, assuming we don't want to put on fat unnecessarily, obviously. We're going to track our weight every single morning for a week. We're going to eat this amount as close as we can every single day for the week. Ideally, you'll do this for even longer periods of time, because the more data you have, the better you'll be able to judge what your maintenance actually is, because there's going to be fluctuations based on a million other things. But let's say, to keep it simple, we get a week's worth of data. Now we have a better understanding of what our maintenance might be. Maybe it is pretty much exactly what the calculator told us it was. Maybe it's way off. You will see based on how quickly you're losing or gaining weight, or if you're maintaining, generally speaking. You want to track your trends, because there's going to be fluctuations, like I said. So I would recommend an app like Happy Scale is great. You can do it with AI. I know a lot of people like that. Like a lot of the clients I work with, they'll track their food, like everything in AI, which that's just the world we live in now, I guess. So yeah, if you want to take advantage of that, be my guest. So we found your maintenance. Now, depending on what your goals are, if we want to, a lot of you are probably going to want to be in a deficit. You're going to want to get leaner. So we're going to subtract however many calories from that. Go watch my other videos if you want more about that specifically, how many calories you should subtract. I'm not really going to go into that in this video because it'll be too long. But let's say we're either at maintenance now, we're in a deficit, maybe we're in a surplus if we think we should be. Again, not the purpose of this video, but hopefully you guys have a general understanding of that sort of thing. If not, go watch my other videos, ask questions in the comments. I'm happy to help. Now, we got our calories down. Now, how do we want to split up our macros? This is a general framework we can use. You've probably seen I've put this in short form videos a million fucking times, but we want to set protein at about 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram. This is about 0.73 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. If you are using the pound system, if you're in the fucking United States of America, happy 4th of July. I already said that, but fuck you. Or if you just like to use that because it's easier and it's better, right guys? Nope. Okay. This is based on the research. This is what they typically suggest is the optimal amount, quote unquote. Not here to go down a sciencey rabbit hole of macronutrients. I believe I've done that in separate videos, so go watch those if you want. Fat intake, this one's a bit trickier, and this one, there aren't really hard recommendations given in much of the research. I have seen these numbers thrown around, and these are what I use anecdotally, what people a lot smarter than me and a lot more successful than me use anecdotally, and they seem to work very well. The reason we're using a range is because, like I said, it can be very different per person, depending on how lean you are and just genetic predispositions, things like this, as well as the sources of your fats, which we'll get into in a little bit. But generally speaking, these are the numbers I like to work with. This is more so for like when you're in more of a maintenance phase, and I put this in here because I think some people can go on the lower end here of like 0.5 grams per kilogram. So let's say you're 80 kilograms, that's going to be 40 grams of fat. That's pretty low, right? Now, if we're doing more of like an aggressive diet and this is just a short-term thing, I think you can get away with that, especially if you're supplementing with omega-3s, which I will touch on in a little bit, and you should definitely do that regardless. But I'm hesitant to say that because it can be too low for a lot of people. That's why I like this recommendation a bit better, because it's just a little bit higher. This typically works very well for a lot of people, so I would probably err on this side. But if you were doing more of an aggressive diet, maybe you go 0.5 grams like on certain days. Maybe on your training days you want to have carbs a little bit higher, fats a little bit lower. That is something you can definitely do. So yeah, and then we're just going to fill the rest of our calories in with carbs. Pretty simple stuff. Fiber, this is the general recommendation that the research typically gives, is about 14 grams per 1,000 calories that you eat. So if you eat 2,000 calories, you're going to be eating about 28 grams of fiber. If you're eating 3,000 calories, that's going to be, what the fuck is that? 14 times 3, that's what? 42? I believe. Should be 42. It's a good amount of fiber. You guys might be shatting your pants with that. Might be having some constipation. Fiber, again, I can make a separate video about this. I can't dive too deep on any of these little individual topics because this video would just be way too long. But with fiber, generally speaking, you want to start pretty low. You can start like 20 grams. That's usually where I'll start people at, especially if they have digestive problems. And you'll see this in the research with, if we take like general IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, general people with GI issues of any sorts, low FODMAP diets, which basically in simple terms we'll say means like lower fiber. It's not really what it is, but those are almost always supported by the evidence to be beneficial, at least as a starting point. So we want to start with fiber on the lower end, depending on where you've been at currently and if you have problems. We can just say, for general speaking, we can put it you here. What the fuck am I even saying, dude? Holy shit. Get a grip, Nicholas. Woo! Okay. I'm pretty energetic today. I'm happy. I didn't even have any caffeine today, actually. I just had a decaf coffee. This is my first day without caffeine in a minute. I'm feeling good. So we're in a good place right now. Anyways, nobody gives a fuck about me right now. Let's talk about you. So we're going to put fiber. We can start at 20 grams. We can start at 14 grams per 1,000 calories. We may want to slowly build this up over time, but the key is slowly build it up over time. I don't know the exact mechanisms of why you basically your gut needs to adapt to the amount of fiber you give it, essentially. I don't know the exact mechanisms, but I imagine it has something to do with the short chain fatty acid production and how that feeds your gut microbiome and all the stuff that's going on there. Don't worry about that. If we want a separate video about that, I can do that in the future. I'm not well versed enough on that to what am I looking for? To nerd out on that right now. So doesn't matter. You're good. Again, fuck you. I don't know. Okay, now, general meal structure, general template. You've probably seen, I've made some short form videos about this to talk about some of my story. This is the general framework I like to use, and you can see it in this fucking picture right here, if you can see my mouse. So we're going to start with the protein source, of course, and I'll probably touch on more of these, like, kind of explaining these ideas more when I show you the actual meal plan. I sound like an idiot right now, jeez. But, sorry, there's someone behind me, that's why. So let me pull up in this fucking I'm in a random parking lot right now, and these motherfuckers are doing some fuck shit. Am I right, guys? Okay, shut up, dude. Anyways, we probably want to spread out all these things, basically. So that's why we're trying to include one in each meal, basically. Now, again, I'll show you what this actually looks like. But we want to have a protein source. We want to have a fat source. In this case, the protein source, we have chicken breast. There's also going to be some fat in there. The fat source, we have some dark chocolate right here, if you can see that. You could also, if this was actual peanut butter or almond butter, you could easily do that. Or olive oil to cook the veggies and the chicken, whatever. There's a million things you can do there. Nuts, whatever. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Want to have a fat source in there to slow down the digestion of this meal, to prevent larger, quicker blood sugar spikes and therefore subsequent insulin spikes, as well as to keep us fuller for longer, as well as to prevent large amounts of fat at once, therefore spreading it out to prevent that, because that can be negative for digestion, a million things. General idea there. We want to have fruit source, and I put sources in, parentheses there, because having a variety of sources is likely beneficial to get a variety of nutrients. Now, here I believe this is frozen mango, which I just love. It tastes amazing. Not too much going on nutritionally compared to some other fruits. Very good source of vitamin C, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Not too much else from what I remember, but it's a decent decent carb source here. Now we also have a veggie source. We have green beans. Again, there's better options out there for sure. Be getting some vitamin K. That's the main thing we'll be getting. Maybe a little bit of minerals, depending on how much the quantity of how much you're fucking eating. Why can't I speak, dude? What am I doing? Something rattled me. I don't know what's going on. Anyways, we want to have, again, a variety of veggies ideally. So you'd have like some mixed veggies. I'm probably going to refer to a lot of the time in this video, because generally speaking, the more variety we have, the more micros and phytonutrients and antioxidants, anthocyanins, all these little things we're going to be getting. Polyphenols, everything. We want to get a wide variety of these different things. So that's why I recommend a wide variety of veggies and fruit sources. That'll cover majority of your bases without even having to think about or track your actual numbers there. So definitely recommend that. And then if the calories allow for it and if it makes sense, we'll have an additional carb source. Like here in this case, we have sourdough bread. I probably threw some honey on there as well. If we were cutting, generally speaking, if calories were lower, we would probably want to remove that if we needed to. That's not to say that carbs are bad, but typically that's going to be the first thing to go from the diet, just because we need our proteins and our fats. And assuming those are already at like the baseline level that we need, we don't want to pull from those, obviously, so we're going to have to pull from carbs, but we don't want to pull from fruits and veggies because of the micros in them. Now, something like sourdough bread or rice or pasta, these aren't going to be there's not going to be too much going on nutritionally there. We're not going to be getting too much from that. So we want to ideally remove from that. They're also going to be, generally speaking, not very filling. So we want to replace those things with things like fruits and veggies and potatoes and things like this, which we'll talk about in a second, that will keep us fuller, make sure we're adequately hitting our micronutrient needs. And yeah, those are the main ideas there. But if we need more carbs and the calories and macros allow for it, then we'll have something like an additional carb source. In this case, we have sourdough bread. It might be rice in other cases, which I'll show you soon. But yeah, that's the general meal structure that you'll see, again, for the fucking 18th time that I probably said already. But yeah, let's get into a little bit of another framework, which is basically the same thing that I just said, so I'll just brush on this quickly. But to keep it simple, if we want to hit our micronutrients, somebody asked me this on my story the other day. If you saw this, if you follow me in short form, they said, the question was, what are the best foods to hit micronutrient goals? This was the framework that I said, was we want to have a wide variety of animal products, including fatty fish in there ideally, dairy products, variety of veggies, variety of fruits like I already touched on, and then generally speaking, like plant sources of fats. This is going to be things like avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, things like this. If we're getting a wide variety of foods that fit these categories every single day, we're likely going to be killing vast majority, if not all, of our micronutrient goals. So this is the general framework you want to follow, and I will show you what this actually looks like in practice now. Okay, example meal plan time. So you probably just saw, to save some suspense, I'll save the rest day. But let's get into what a training day could look like. This is basically what my diet is right now. I don't actually give meal plans to a lot of my clients currently, because a lot of them struggle with food problems in terms of like binging and that sort of thing. So giving them a meal plan isn't really a good idea in a lot of cases. With that aside, this is what I would generally recommend. This is what like my coach Declan typically uses as well. He works with a lot more guys than I do. So you can take that how you will. Take with that what you will, I guess. Can you fuck off, please? Oh my gosh. Always somebody lurking around fucking distracting me when I'm trying to record. Because I'm fucking recording in my car, talking to a computer screen right now, because I'm too fucking insecure to do it in my house, because my parents are there and I don't want them to hear me talking to my fucking computer. Anyways, let's get into it. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know this is my fucking favorite meal of all time right now. Fucking love this shit. We got rice cakes, banana, whey, honey, light salt. I will make a separate video about pre-workouts and nutrition specifically, probably in the next week or two is my plan. I have a ton of ideas. I'm fired up to do YouTube all of a sudden. It's great. I'm pumping these out, trying to do at least 1 to 2 a week. Anyways, so what we're covering here, we have very easy digesting foods for the most part. We have a mix of glucose and fructose, which is going to allow for quicker absorption of these carbs and therefore utilization of these carbs in our workout ideally. Again, I'll talk more about all these things in the pre-workout video. We also have honey, which is fructose. Well, I don't even specify, but The glucose will be coming primarily from the rice cakes and the banana. Banana is a good source of glucose. Primarily, there's also some fructose in there as well. Honey, primarily fructose, some glucose, I believe. Then we have some whey, assuming we have enough time to digest. We have, if this is 60 to 90 minutes prior, we want to probably stimulate MPS because we were fasting overnight for however many hours. We likely want to stimulate MPS ideally. If you get it in after your workout, it's not a big deal. But if we have the time for it and we're not working out super early, then we should probably get some protein in. And whey is a great option here because it digests quickly. Now, a lot of people will have problems digesting dairy and whey specifically. So that is something to consider because, again, I'll talk about this in the pre-workout video specifically, but we want to avoid any kind of foods that might cause problems. So we're not really eating like high fibrous foods, any high FODMAP foods, especially anything like that. I mean, honey is technically a high FODMAP food, I believe, but it doesn't typically cause problems from what I've seen. Now, again, take that with a grain of salt. Everybody's going to be different. One food can cause problems for one person, can be amazing for another person based on where their gut is currently at. That's a whole nother rabbit hole, which I don't have time to explain right now. But we also have some light salt. Light salt, some countries, places, companies, whatever, will call it half salt. You can use no salt as another alternative, which is like no sodium, mainly potassium. You can do that and regular salt, or whatever you want to get a mix. The idea here is to get a mix of sodium, potassium, iodine as well, because iodine is very difficult to get from your diet, which is why most salts that you see in the store are iodized. They have iodine added. So light salt covers all those bases. You're going to see we put that on every single meal. This is just what I like to do to hit my potassium and sodium goals. Now, I'm not here. You can see I don't specify amounts here at all because that just wouldn't make any sense, because everybody's going to have different needs. Now, yeah, so I'm not even going to go into amounts here, but this is just what I like to do, what I recommend doing, what works very well. So yeah, we've got our carbs, we've got our protein, we've got easy digesting foods, we've got our sodium, potassium, we're hydrated. Now, that's our pre-workout meal done. You'll see if we weren't working out, obviously, then we would change this up a little bit, ideally, because there's not too much going on micronutrient-wise here. The honey and the banana will be getting some micros in there a little bit, but not too much. Rice cakes are pretty bland of micros. So this would not be ideal if that was our main goal, but it's not. Our goal is to fuel our workout. Then we will get into some more of that stuff here. But intra-workout, this is optional. Again, I'll talk about this in the pre-workout video probably, but this is just what I like to do. Orange juice, water, mix the two if you want. You don't have to, but I like to mix like 100 milliliters of orange juice, and then I like to do like a 2-to-1 ratio of water to orange juice. You can do a 1-to-1, whatever you want. And then some honey in there as well. And then again, some light salt, some sodium, potassium. This just gives us some electrolytes, some water, some fluid, as well as we'll be getting some vitamin C from the orange juice and some other micros from the honey and the OJ as well. Also just some carbs. If our workouts are longer, this will be especially potentially beneficial. If our workouts are short, like 60 minutes or less, this likely isn't doing too much, but we can get the mouth rinsing effect from it. So I would recommend doing it. If you have the calories, you might as well. Very little calories here. This is like less than 100 calories, I think. But put that aside. Now we're moving into meal 2, post-workout meal. You can change the order of the rest of these meals pretty much, but we're going back to that framework now. We have a fat and protein source here. You can opt for a fattier cut of the beef if you want. You could also throw in like some olive oil if you wanted some additional fat, depending on what your macro needs are. But we also have some mixed veg here. This is like a spring mix or something, I think it's called. I think there's peppers, there's broccoli, there's green beans, there's what else is there? I forget what the fuck this green one is. Yeah, I can't even think of what it is right now, I'm not gonna lie. But we got a wide variety of veggies, so we're gonna be covering a lot of micronutrient bases there, which is awesome. We also have some rice in there because for more carbs. Again, if you didn't have room in your plan for carbs, just remove the rice. You can have cauliflower rice instead. That's a solid substitute. You could just add more veggies if you wanted, whatever you want to do there. I would also throw in some pineapple, because pineapple specifically, you could throw in any fruit source there, but pineapple specifically has something called bromelain. I believe it's how you pronounce it, bromelain. This is going to help with the digestion of protein, which is awesome. And some people will have trouble digesting like a large amount of beef or chicken at once. So I highly recommend utilizing something like pineapple to help with that. Another big thing will be just chewing. Make sure you're chewing this adequately. That's general digestion stuff. I can make a separate video about that. And then again, we're throwing some light salt in there to top it all off. Again, you can throw on some olive oil. You can throw on whatever other fat sources you wanted, some avocado oil, whatever you want. You could throw an avocado in there as well. You could throw in some potatoes if you wanted to swap that for the rice. That's also a veggie technically, so I would just group them as the same thing. But you can get freak with that. Do whatever you want. Throw some sauce in there if you want, whatever you want to do. Now, this is very similar, just slightly different choices here to kind of spice it up, cover some more bases. We've got some chicken as our protein source now. You could also do some fatty fish, ideally, like something like salmon. That would be awesome. Then we have some sweet potato. We're going to get vitamin A, potassium, beta carotene specifically with the vitamin A. Now, the conversion of that will be different depending on the person. I can make videos about that specifically. I dove into that in the research. That's very complex, but, well, not really. It's just very individually different, I guess, is how I can explain that. But regardless, we'll also have some mixed veg as well. We can do ideally like a different mix. So try to get a different, maybe you do some asparagus, some fucking beetroot, some squash, whatever you want to throw in there. To try to mix it up, get more micros, more phytonutrients, everything like that. And then for fat source here, we can do dark chocolate, we can do nuts, not butter, we can do olive oil, avocado. Those are the main sources of fats that I would recommend. For various reasons, that's what's consistently shown in the research to have the most positive effects on health, generally speaking. So that's why you can choose whatever you want, whatever you like, whatever kind of makes sense with what you're actually eating in the meal, what you enjoy. So do with that what you will. Then we have a fruit of choice. Pineapple could work great here as well for assisting with protein digestion. I just thought of something is why I had a brain fart there, which I should have added. I'm going to add right here. Hold up. I don't know how I forgot this, but one of the main fucking players in this meal is the cinnamon, which will theoretically help with the blood sugar regulation and basically the carbohydrate digestion utilization of this meal. We have a good amount of research to support that. So you can throw cinnamon on all of your meals, basically. You can throw it on like your fruits. I do that. It might be weird, but I throw it on like my blueberries, honey, cinnamon. That's a great combination, by the way. It's fucking great. Don't knock it till you try it. You can throw it on your sweet potato. Again, don't knock that till you try it. You may want to be careful because if you have too much cinnamon, this could potentially be toxic to your liver. If you're having the typical cinnamon that is sold at the store, which is called ground cinnamon, specifically, it is cassia cinnamon. It is the more technical term for it. This contains something called coumarin, I'm not sure how you say it, but that specific compound, whatever the fuck it is, could potentially be toxic to your liver if you had an excessive amount of it. You likely, from what I've read in the research, you likely don't have to worry about it. It seems like it's one of those things where some people are kind of more genetically predisposed to it, just like pretty much everything when it comes to health. But it's something to consider. So you might want to get, instead of that cassia cinnamon, the ground cinnamon, the typical store cinnamon, you might want to get what's called Ceylon cinnamon instead. That has less of that coumarin thing. Therefore, you can use more of it theoretically and not have to worry about it, basically. So if you want to play it safe, something to consider. Random tangent there. But again, we might want to take advantage of the slight benefit that we might get from having cinnamon with our meals for glucose control purposes. With that said, that's another meal down. Put your fruit of choice, whatever. I think that's what I was saying when I thought of that. Have your fruit of choice, whatever. You can have mixed fruit, whatever you want. Again, ideally, a wide variety of fruits will probably be beneficial to cover more bases, generally speaking. But yeah, there we go. Then we'll have, of course, our light salt in there. Now, meal 4. This will be the last meal of the day. Again, you don't have to do 4 meals. This is just what I like to do personally, what it typically works best for most. You can do 3 meals if it works better for your schedule and your preference. You can do 5, you can do 6, whatever the fuck you want. 4 is usually a good sweet spot. Now, here we have Greek yogurt bowl. We're getting, with this meal specifically, which is what, okay, I sound so stupid right now. This is a great final meal specifically because Greek yogurt is going to be higher in casein as opposed to whey. Casein digests slower than whey. So theoretically, we're going to stimulate MPS for longer because we're going a longer period of time overnight without eating any protein, right? So theoretically, having some casein, a slower digesting protein, might be beneficial for that. Now, we have research to support that. There's some research supports this idea. Some of it kind of debunks it. Generally speaking, if you're hitting your total amounts, it really doesn't matter. Doesn't seem to matter, at least. But theoretically, we might be getting a very slight edge here. And having some almond butter in this meal, a fat source again, primarily just to spread out our fat intake. But this also, with this being the last meal, this will theoretically help us to digest and absorb those amino acids from the protein at a slower rate, more gradual rate over the night, as well as keep us fuller for longer, as well as potentially keep our blood sugar in a good place for longer, keep our liver glycogen in a better place, which I'll talk about in a second with the pre-bed snack, which you can see there. But all that's to say, we're trying to have something that's maybe slower digesting, but we don't want it to be causing problems. We don't want to have it too close to bed to where a lot of the main mechanism that would be disrupting our sleep would be an increase in our body temperature, because we have to deal with the food, basically, in simple terms. Now, if you're also just generally uncomfortable in any way, of course, that's going to affect your sleep potentially, so we don't want to do that. We want to avoid that by any means. But with all that said, this is just a great way to get in some more micros. We have almond butter, which is a great source of fats. We have mixed berries, which are a great source of antioxidants, anthocyanins, fiber, which goes along with the slowing digestion thing. Also taste amazing. Greek yogurt bowls are amazing. Honey, if we want to throw in for some more sweetness, some fructose, some more carbs. You can throw in like some crushed rice cakes. Maybe if you want to have some Drizzlicious. I fucking love those things. If you want to throw those on top. You can throw on like whatever. If you want to have like a little treat, you'd probably want to have that as your last meal. So maybe you save like 100 calories worth of something that you really like, as long as you digest it well, it doesn't fuck up your gut. That is something that I would recommend for sure. For me, this is like Drizzlicious is a great option. I fucking love those. You could throw dark chocolate in here instead of the almond butter. That tastes amazing as well. Honey is amazing. You could do maple syrup if you wanted, I guess. There's a lot of things you could do there. Again, light salt. You already know. That's just a simple framework there. I personally haven't eaten this in a long time because Greek yogurt fucks my gut up. Makes me break out as well. I'll save you the anecdote there. It's not worth it. But a lot of people seem to either have trouble digesting dairy specifically, or I should say lactose specifically within the dairy, or casein specifically. Or some people have trouble digesting whey, which is typically the lactose content, which you can get isolate versus concentrate to have less whey. I forget which one is which, to be honest. I probably fucked that up, but multiple tangents there. But if, let's say, you struggled to digest dairy or Greek yogurt specifically, you could swap this for cream of rice, for another meal like this, or like the meal one that I'm going to show you in the rest day. There's a lot of things you can do there, but this is just a general framework. The Greek yogurt will also give us some probiotics, some other compounds in the dairy that are potentially beneficial. Obviously, calcium. If it's fortified, they'll have some vitamin D in there. Other things like glutathione. I forget how you say that, but depending on the sources that we're getting and things like this. You could also have something like kefir. Yeah, multiple tangents there. This is a long video. I gotta stop. I gotta get it going here. Wrap it up soon. Anyways, pre-bed snack. The goal here, fill up our liver glycogen to prevent hypoglycemia, low blood sugar from happening during the night. If you find that you wake up in the middle of the night to have to pee consistently at like 2 or 3 a.m., this could definitely help you out, because your liver glycogen is stored carbs. Your liver is one of the main sites of that. Your muscles are the other main site. But we have your liver glycogen is going to primarily control your blood sugar. So when your blood sugar dips too low, so you go hypoglycemic, your pancreas would then, specifically your alpha cells of your pancreas, to nerd out on you guys, would secrete glucagon, which then stimulates your liver to break down that glycogenolysis, the breakdown of glycogen, into glucose to then raise our blood sugar. So basically, you pull glycogen from the liver, break it down back into glucose, into usable sugar, to then raise your blood sugar, right? Now, with all that said, if our liver glycogen is low, theoretically, that could kind of exacerbate hypoglycemia episodes, if you get what I'm saying. So by filling up our liver glycogen before bed, we potentially mitigate that from happening. That should hopefully make sense. Hopefully I explained that well. I tried to simplify that. But yeah. And then also kiwis have been shown specifically to improve sleep quality because they have natural serotonin, natural melatonin, as well as some other specific compounds, I believe. But any fruit works here for the reasons that I just explained. Blueberries and honey is a great one as well. Any fruit before bed, this can be like 60 minutes before bed is a good general rule of thumb. You can do 30. This will also just help with hunger if you're cutting pretty aggressively and you struggle with hunger at night. This can also be a great way to try to mitigate that, ideally. But yeah, and also just another place to get more micros in and to have a fucking sweet treat before bed, you know what I'm saying? Now, with all that said, where the fuck is my... Here we go. Now, if we were on a rest day, we would basically keep everything very similar, but instead of that first meal, because we're not training, we could have something like this to get ideally more micros in. You could have a mix of eggs, egg whites, fat and protein, as well as a lot of micronutrients, protein, veggies for micronutrients. So if you want to have like an omelet, you could throw in like some spinach, some peppers, whatever you guys want to do there. Or you could have it on the side. You could have a salad on the side, whatever. And then maybe we have some sourdough. Maybe we have some cream of rice like I have here with some fruit and probably some PB2 because I fucking love that shit. You could do whatever the fuck you want here. Follow the same principles as all the other meals, the other frameworks that I've already explained. We just probably don't want to be having something that's like pretty void of micronutrients generally like this if we're not training. It just wouldn't really make sense. So yeah, that's the general idea there. And then obviously adjust the rest of your meals according to your calories and stuff. And I guess I should touch on this real quick. I really don't want to, but in terms of should you have more calories on your training days? Should you carb cycle? Generally speaking, to keep it simple, it's probably not going to make much of a difference. I would just leave it up to preference. It's going to depend when you're training. So also obviously, if you're not training in the morning, if you're training at night, midday, whatever, just rearrange the order of your meals accordingly. Should be pretty self-explanatory. Just have maybe you have meal 2 as your first meal, and then you have meal 1 becomes your second meal. You get what I'm saying there. But where I'm trying to go with this is, depending on when you're working out, that will influence the actual efficacy of carb cycling, theoretically speaking. Because if we understand that muscle glycogen is seems to be filled up over more like a 24-hour period, as opposed to like, so let's say I'm working out like I am here. I'm having more carbs on my training days, but I'm working out after my first meal, right? So theoretically, I'm not filling up my muscle glycogen before my workout if majority of my carbs are coming after my workout, right? And then on my rest day, I'm having lower carbs. Therefore, theoretically, going into my next training day with lower glycogen, basically, if you get what I'm saying. Now, this really doesn't matter too much because you don't really use that much muscle glycogen anyways. And if you're having adequate carbs over the day, over the week, you don't have to worry about this, realistically speaking. This would only really be important to focus on if carbs were super low, if calories were super low, if we were super lean, super depleted, if we were in like prep, for example, which things would change a lot here if that were the case. I mean, not necessarily, but that would be a whole separate story. Long story short, I think personally carb cycling is a bit overrated. If you are hungrier on your train days and you want to have more carbs, by all means do it. And if you are training later in the day, then it could be more beneficial in that case. But the main thing, most important thing here will be total carbs on both training and rest days over the course of the week, etc. And that's the same thing with total protein intake, total micronutrient intake, everything like that. Your total intakes of these things across the day, across the week is what matters most. Everything else in terms of spreading out and trying to optimize, those are like the little rocks, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top type of thing. You get what I'm saying? So focus on the actual cake itself first, the base of the pyramid. Then you could start to worry about these little minute things that might make little like 0.1% differences. You get what I'm saying? Now, if you still somehow need help, you're still somehow lost, feel free to drop questions in the comments, first of all, about anything. But I can help you out in a couple ways. I, of course, offer coaching if you want to get results like these guys, if you want to get jacked, if you want to feel better, be healthier, improve your gut health, lose fat, get shredded, improve your relationship with food, all the while doing all these other things. I think there's few people who have the skill set that I do, help you manage pain, fucking a lot of things, not to toot my own horn, but you're not going to find a service as high quality as mine for the price that I charge. I promise you genuinely. So if you want to take advantage of that, I would highly recommend. You can apply down below, link in description, link in my bio on Instagram, everything like that, my link tree. Or you can DM me if you're interested and you're curious on what that looks like. Feel free to DM me. No harm at all if it doesn't work out. Or if you don't want to pay for coaching, for whatever reason you can't afford it, you don't want to do it, I also do offer either one-off meal plans or a consultation call where I can basically answer any questions you want. We can build out a meal plan together, build out a training plan together. If you are interested in any of those things, just DM me for details and I'll be happy to try to help you out. Again, drop any questions in the comments. Feel free to DM me questions, but if it's going to be like, what should I do specifically in terms of amounts and stuff, you're going to have to inquire about one of the services there, unfortunately. But hopefully this video was helpful. I really hope it was. I hope you guys have a great 4th of July. I don't know when I'll upload this. Maybe I'll go do it right now if I'm feeling frisky. Who knows? Or maybe I'll upload it tomorrow. Who knows? But regardless, whenever you're watching this, I hope you're having a good weekend. I hope you're having a good day. I hope things are great. I hope this was helpful. Seriously. Take everything with a grain of salt like always. This is just a general framework, meaning your individual circumstance is going to probably be different if you have special accommodations or whatever. Of course, things are going to be different. That's where coaching, one-on-one support comes in handy. But again, I hope this is helpful. Let me know what you guys want to see. Please like, subscribe, comment, help the algorithm. I'm going to keep pumping these out. I love you guys. Peace out.